challenge with sustaining the HAY programs as well as programs at 6 other schools. And I'm going to go off script just a little bit because this is such an intimate gathering, just to highlight a couple of points of background. As you heard the students say, these are high school students and they could technically be on their own at the end of the school day. But in our communities, there really aren't many jobs. There really isn't much for them to do, and this is the place where they do the community service, they can do paid work, they can learn what they don't want to be doing, as Representative Buxton pointed out, and this is an opportunity to support their growth. And one of the things at Leland and Gray that we're also really trying to promote is the connection to the career world and partnerships with local professionals in our community. So that's a little context about high school, and at the elementary level we have 6 programs. And we've been in operation for 4 years, primarily with federal funding from 21C. And I would just like to say that I very much believe in public-private partnerships. We're not here asking for the state of Vermont to fully fund our expanded learning programs. We're asking for the state of Vermont to do its part. We're doing our part as best we can. The parents do pay a small fee at the elementary school level. The high school families, they just wouldn't send their kids if we asked them for a fee. But we do ask parents to do their part. The school districts are doing their part. They're contributing in their budgets from the taxpayers. I'm doing fundraising. And even so, at this point, we're in a very vulnerable position. We've just submitted an application for renewed 21C funding. But their guideline is, by this point, we should have a 50% match. That's impossible in our communities. We have no major organizations that could be financial sponsors. So communities like ours, the small rural communities, I know many of you represent such communities, are at a significant disadvantage because we just can't make that match. And therefore, we're out of the running for the federal money right at the get-go. So right now, we're just crossing our fingers that we won't have to close. We find out in April. And even if we do get the funding, we were stretching for a 40% match, 60% from the federal funds. We still have to come up with $50,000 in fundraising. So we may close in another year because we can't meet that fundraising target. So I'm here to make that ask for the state of Vermont to appropriate enough money, $2.5 million to the fund, so that programs like ours, which are receiving some funding, can be on an even playing field so that we can continue to get that kind of federal support and do our own part. And then I have a couple of reasons, which you all have in the written testimony, about why the programs themselves are so essential. So basically, my point is this. Why do we leave such a gap between the end of the school day and the end of the workday? As a society, how are we supporting our working families so that parents can be out making a living and putting food on the table if they don't know that their kids are in a safe place? And these days with the internet, having an older sibling or someone there with your child is not enough protection for the kinds of things that they can be getting into. And there's a lot of research about the time after school being the most dangerous time for young people. So that is the point I want to make sure we all understand, that this is a public safety and public health issue. And then the other piece is about, as you've heard, this is not babysitting. This is essential programming because schools can only do so much, families can only do so much, and we are in a position to support the growth of these young people, to counteract the achievement gap. We're working to make sure this is an even playing field and there's high quality education for all. That's the Vermont value. Thank you so much for hearing us.
Representative Wright.
Thanks. What's the fee that you charge to parents, and do all parents pay or some not pay? Is it a sliding scale?
It is a sliding scale. We started off with it being by donation only. And then we realized that the families need to feel they have a stake in this and that they are doing their part, and it's also for a sense of dignity that they are contributing. So we instituted a sliding scale of $30 for a 1 day a week program for 5 or 6 weeks, and we offer programming 4 days a week. So families can pay as little as $5 for 1 day a week, and we have a cap for a family, so no one pays more than $150 for a session. And we have families who say, we really just can't do that this month, but we have some supplies we could donate. They contribute in other ways. They lead programs.
Thanks.
Representative Manware.
Thank you. I'm wondering whether or not you have explored whether or not some of your municipalities might have programs that can link up and reuse, or even provide some money. Recreation programs, for example, would be one use of municipally owned property to do some of this programming in, and whether or not that can be brought to your matching effort.
Yes, I appreciate your practical thinking on this, because we are exploring every possible avenue. In more metropolitan areas, you know, Burlington, Essex Junction, and so on, there are rec programs. We don't have them in our region, but we have significant in-kind support because of partnerships with the school. So in terms of use of property, we don't pay any kind of rental fee. We're not contributing to the heating costs. That's all in kind from the schools. Without that, we couldn't do this. So we have very strong partnerships within the school districts, and beyond that, we're overturning every rock we can find. We've established a partnership with West River Valley Thrives, which is a prevention coalition, and so they have resources for grant writing. They're going to lead some programs. We're going to do family outreach in partnership with them. So, but we are looking for any way.
I'm just from over the mountain from you guys for Wilmington, and we do have a rec program in Wilmington that we do match up here, and it helps being some of the relationship to keep the program going.
Representative Long.
As you can imagine, I'm sitting here bursting with pride over my school and my students, if I can just say, and Thara and my principals behind moved away for somebody else to sit. And honestly, the work that's done in RSU around this is phenomenal, and it has much to do with leadership. And I appreciate the fact that our superintendent does supports all this, and it goes on right down to the students doing the work. But maybe you could explain there a little bit about I mean, nobody really knows what. This was a good example. The demographics sort of our area. It's very rural. We don't have one dominating community. We're all small communities feeding into one high school. And give a little summary maybe of the summer opportunities for kids too. Thank you.
So the context is that all of the schools that we work with heading into next year will have at least a 50% proportion of the students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. And so that means that we can provide an extended meal at the end of the day. And it also means that there are very few resources for many of our families. The schools are at least 10 or 11 miles apart. So this is not a situation where most kids walk to school. They have to be driven, or we provide transportation, which is a big cost for us, but it's absolutely necessary. And in the summer, we run a bus so that kids can attend a camp for elementary schools that is at one of our elementary schools. So they come from all over the SU. And that's for the month of July, 5 days a week. There's swimming. We take the kids to Brattleboro so they can take swimming lessons. They visit farms. They have tutoring so they can catch up, because the summer is huge for the learning gap. So they can catch up on their studies. They put on plays. It's just a full day for these kids, of all keeping their brains active, their bodies active. And then for the 7th and 8th graders, we have a program which we are hoping we can continue, because we've been doing this with the federal funding. It's for 7th and 8th graders at Leland Gray, but it's for anyone in the SU of that age group. And it focuses on, again, keeping their brains active, but in very fun, hands-on ways. So they do projects. Last year they did flight, so they had flight simulators and made incredible paper airplanes, and they have math projects where they construct using something that's kind of like Legos, but they're very cool German Legos. And they make them move, and they record the distances and the velocity. And in the afternoon, they're out in the woods and they're hiking. And again, that's for the month of July. And there really is nothing else. If those programs close, there is nothing, right? There is nothing else in our communities. Because to go to Brattleboro means huge expense for families. Those programs are all high-cost programs, also transportation. So for working families, it's almost impossible. So we are it in our communities as far as programs for young people. There are no rec clubs. Community centers are hardly active at all. Even many of the churches are close to closing. So as far as the glue that holds community together, this is key.
So my guess is that, I'm not much of an historian, but my guess is that school used to end at 3 o'clock, so kids could get home and help with milking and other chores. Of course, you know, that doesn't happen so much anymore. We have automated milking parlors where no human has to be involved in milking cows anymore. So that made me think, have you approached the school board? And you talked about busing. My guess is that school ends at 3 and there's a busing that happens at 3, and then the after-school program happens, and then you do another busing at 5:30, so you're sort of doubling the cost of busing. Have you approached the school board with the idea of having the school day extend to 5:30 and do one? You're already dealing with 200 out of the 300 students, so run the school day till 5:30, have different kind of programs rather than classroom type programs, but rather the programs that you're already running in the after-school program, available for all students, and run it till 5:30, and especially since you're now participating in the evening meal piece.
It is a possibility, and as you know, that level of change is a huge undertaking to work through with each board. The level of partnership with the local community is tremendous. I think that might be a long-term view, and it's a bigger conversation than just in our SU about this alignment of the school day and the work day. And right now, because not everyone participates, because there are other programs, extracurricular programs, the high school particularly, there's athletics, there's the drama program, there's band. There's a variety of things that are all happening. They're not part of the primary school day.
Right. Representative Buxton.
Another source of funding that I wonder if you could talk a little bit about is the child care financial assistance. And I wonder, particularly given your high level of poverty, how you fold into that and help draw down some of those subsidies from families who would be eligible.
Yes,
I think it's up to age 12 or 13 that
yes,
you can do
and
that.
in fact, we have someone in the audience who represents the Department of Children and Families, I believe.
Oh.
Yes.
Lynn Robinson. Oh, look at that.
So I may defer to you on some of this, but first of all, I am so glad that that exists. That is a crucial piece of the puzzle. And I spent, over the course of a year, time meeting with the liaison from the Department of Children and Families, talking with principals, researching the changing regulations to see if we could do that. And ultimately we found that we would have to disband operations as they exist and recreate from scratch, and we just didn't think that it would be possible. And here's why. Our programs run on sessions, and this is primarily the elementary school I'm talking about because that's where this would apply. Our programs run in 5 to 6 week sessions, and we rely heavily on community members to lead programs, and we have school day teachers who anchor the programs. But we have a changing cast, and the licensing regulations are really designed for a stable staff caring for children in a consistent way. And it's wonderful, and I'm glad that exists. It really doesn't match what we're doing. And I think that our model is important because it is that glue in the community. It involves parents and people who maybe have grown children now, but they want to stay connected to young people. The mentoring that happens through that, the exposure to the whole variety. I mean, we have farmers come, we have local artists. So I really would hate to lose that. But it does mean we can't access the funds.
I see.